We go. So the topic is product market fit, which I'm sure is a term that almost all of you have heard of. Um, it's kind of one of those terms where I say to people, have you heard of product market fit? And people always say, oh, yeah. But then if I ask further details about what that means exactly or how you would get there exactly, then sometimes I get some blank stares. And so I'm going to try to just give you the maybe 20-minute overview of how I think about this. And then I'd love to talk to you all and find out, kind of your own thoughts about this. And I think there's also some interesting examples right now of the way in which generative AI is being used to more efficiently and effectively get to product market fit. I think that'll be a good topic that I'd love to hear from some of the rest of you on. So I am Bret Waters. I have been in Silicon Valley my entire life, living the dream. So 3 times I've been through the process of founding a company, raising venture capital, being a CEO, eventually managing an exit. Today I teach at Stanford University. I teach entrepreneurship, and I teach 2 courses. One is focused on the stage from startup idea to product market fit. And the other one that I teach is focused on from product market fit to scale. So I also coach startup CEOs at the Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship, which is the largest startup accelerator program focused just on social ventures, startups that are trying to change the world. And last year I wrote a book called The Launch Path, which is basically more or less based on the my first course at Stanford, which is about from idea to product market fit. So that's me. And I'm going to start by taking you guys back to 1958, before all of you were born, maybe even before I was born. And that was the year of the greatest new product failure ever. And some of you may know that the world's greatest new product failure ever was the Ford Edsel. And the backstory is that Ford had recently had their IPO. It was the largest IPO in American history. They had a whole bunch of money from the IPO, and they decided to take all that money and hire all the leading automotive engineers of the day and go out and design and build the world's greatest automobile. And they gave them basically an unlimited budget and said, go develop the most advanced automobile ever. And 2 years later, they indeed launched the Ford Edsel, and it had all of these amazing features on it, right? Rolling dome speedometer, whatever that is, speedometer that glows when you're speeding, hood release controlled electronically. This was the most advanced automobile ever. The tagline was the newest expression in fine engineering from the Ford Motor Company. They figured they'd sell 200,000 of them in the first year and go on to sell 1 million units in 3 years. And they were so confident that the Ford Edsel would be a success that they launched it not just in one model, but in 18 different models spread over 4 lines. And it utterly and completely failed. Um, out of their projection of selling 200,000 units in the first year, they sold fewer than 60,000. Second year was even worse. They sold less than what they needed to the break-even point for the whole project. Each one they sold cost them twice that much to make. Lost a whole bunch of money, and is still remembered as the greatest new product failure ever. You'll still hear people say, oh, that new product is a total Edsel. And this is what they're referring to. So if we look at this through kind of a modern innovation lens, what we see is that successful innovation happens at the intersection of what is technologically feasible to build, what is aligned with what customers want, and what can be made and sold profitably, right? And the Ford Edsel had exactly one of those. It was technologically feasible, but the economics were good and it didn't align with what customers want. And so, we've seen this over and over again, right? We've seen companies spend a whole lot of time and money building and launching an exciting new exciting new product that the company is sure customers will love, only to find out that customers don't really care. Some of you may remember the story of 4 or 5 years ago. There was a very famous Silicon Valley washout called Juicero. These guys developed a $700 machine that sat on your kitchen counter and made juice, made fruit juice and vegetable juice. And it was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful machine. It was Wi-Fi connected. You bought these little packets, and you scan the packets with you scan the QR code of the packets, and because the machine was Wi-Fi enabled, it could like verify the juice packets. $120 million raised, the only Wi-Fi connected juicer on the market today. $700 plus you had to buy a subscription to the juice packets. And after just 16 months of operation and $120 million, they failed. And they failed because turns out the world didn't really want a $700 juicer. There are a lot of great ways to make juice, right? You don't really need a $700 Wi-Fi connected juicer. And so, how is it that you raised 120 million bucks and built out an entire product without first testing whether it aligned with what the market wanted? Right? And as I said, we've seen this pattern over and over again. And I'm embarrassed to admit that during the dot-com boom cycle in Silicon Valley, I did it myself. I used this linear product development process. If I had a cool idea, I went out and raised a bunch of money, and we spent millions of dollars building Bret's awesome idea, figuring that then we'd go out and get some customers. And once we had the customers, we'd scale the thing up. And the problem, of course, is that most startups die in this valley of death because they've built something that doesn't align with what customers want. And so in my case, when I did this during the dot-com boom, I basically spent 2 years and $5 million proving that there was no market demand for my awesome idea. So the concept of product market fit is really simple, which is, you need to have an alignment between what your product does and what the market wants. Very simple. And Mark Andreessen, now of Andreessen Horowitz, wrote this very famous blog post a few years ago in which he said that for startups, the only thing that matters is getting to product market fit. And again, it's a very simple idea. It's just simply, here's what the market wants, and here's what your product does. And you have to get alignment between what your product does and what the market wants. Very simple idea. And, maybe the mythical Steve Jobs could move the market to align with his product, but most of us are not Steve Jobs. And so most of us are going to have to move our product to align with the market, right? And, if the only thing that matters is getting to product market fit, then the only question is, okay, so how do we get there most efficiently and most effectively? So Ford Etzel did not do that. Juicero did not do that. And I did not do that with my startup during the dot-com boom. And the answer to the question of how do you most effectively and efficiently get to product market fit, it's pretty simple, which is spend a whole lot of time talking to customers. Do customer development before you do product development. Before you ever start developing the product, spend a whole lot of time talking to customers, understanding their needs and expectations, points of pain, et cetera. And then also, think of small experiments that you can do that will test what the market wants and whether or not your product aligns with what the market wants, whether your product has product market fit. So I want to tell you a story about a particular startup founder, Christina Stembel. She was a event manager at Stanford. And in the process of putting on all kinds of events at the university, she became aware of how messed up the cut flower business is. She had spent a fortune on buying cut flowers for Stanford events. Often they were crappy flowers and they just got thrown out the next day. But she thought, God, there's got to be a better way. And you had all these big players, FTD and Pro Flowers, 1-800 Flowers, et cetera. She just decided that they were all doing it wrong and that she was going to do it better. So she went out and founded a company called Farm Girl Flowers. And she's like all startup founders, she began with a set of assumptions. She assumed that there'd be less waste if she just had one featured arrangement every day. So instead of like FTD, where you look at all the hundreds of arrangements, there would just be one featured arrangement every day. And that customers would like that. Her assumption was that pricing low would be the right approach, that customers loved a deal. and that the efficiency of one featured arrangement every day would help her to be able to price lower than the competitors. And one of her key assumptions was that she assumed that most of her customers would be men buying flowers for women, right? So she began with this set of assumptions, created this whole aesthetic around farm girl flowers, and launched an MVP, which in this case meant a website where people could place orders, and that she would, as the orders came in, she would sit in her spare bedroom in her San Francisco apartment and simply assemble the arrangements as the orders came in, and then often deliver them herself. And so by starting off with this MVP of just a website that she would manually fulfill the orders for, she's able to learn a lot. Able to learn a lot about customers, learn about a lot about if I created a solution that fit with what the market wanted, what would that look like? And like almost every other startup founder, she found out that most of her assumptions were wrong.
Yeah,
She
I'm hungry.
she found out that
It could be immense. I hear that.
if you could mute, that would probably be helpful.
Try this soup. I don't know if it's any good or not.
Okay.
Could the admin mute everybody?
No, you went and wait. I'm having, look how much I'm having. I'm seeing that.
Hello? Can you mute? Thank you. Okay, so she found out that although she thought it was mostly going to be men buying flowers for women, she, in those first orders that came in through her MVP, she found out that it was mostly women buying for other women. And they didn't care as much about the low price as she thought. They cared more about a great looking arrangement. And they also didn't really like the one featured arrangement every day thing. They liked being able to choose. And so based on what she learned, she started scaling the model up, and then found out, as most startups do, that advertising is expensive. And she found out that if she bought keywords on Google, that what that would cost her is more than what the order was worth. And so she started doing some great guerrilla tactics, like putting free flower arrangements in coffee shops around San Francisco with a little stack of business cards underneath and stuff like that. She also found that Instagram turned out to be a great channel for her because it's a very visual product. Flower arrangements are a very visual product, right? That tends to do well on Instagram. Got 500,000 followers on Instagram. So continued to grow, continued to succeed, and now she went out to raise some venture capital. So she went out to Sand Hill Road, and over the course of a year, she pitched to 104 different VCs on Sand Hill Road, and she got 104 no's. And what she heard a lot was, basically, you're a girl selling flowers, and girls selling flowers is not really what we fund. Not scalable, team seems weak, not a tech business. She even actually had one VC walk her to the car and suggest that next time maybe she should bring her husband along. So finally, she got so frustrated with her inability to raise venture capital that she decided, screw it, I'll just bootstrap this thing. And she continued to grow it just out of profit. So every quarter, if it was a profitable quarter, she would reinvest those profits in continuing to scale the business, and continued to grow, continued to succeed, got a lot of great press. She's been on Good Morning America several times. And here's the bottom line, is that she now has a company that's doing $100 million a year, and she owns 100% of it because she never was able to raise any venture capital. So from the perspective of a story about product market fit, let's remember that when she first started out, her assumptions were that people would love one featured arrangement a day, that people would love low-priced flower arrangements, that the efficiency of one featured arrangement a day would give her that ability, and that it would mostly be men buying women flowers. And all of those assumptions were wrong. And so the reason that she was able to get to product market fit and scale up into a $100 million company without raising any outside venture capital is that she was smart enough to test those assumptions by doing the little MVP, by talking to customers, saying, thanks so much for the order. I'd like to know more about why you chose to order from me, right? That's how you get to product market fit, is by spending a whole lot of time talking to customers, doing small little experiments that help you learn what the market wants and helps you learn how to make your product align with what the market wants. So that's kind of the summary. And now, like I said, I'd love to hear from you all about this topic. But kind of the summary is that the only thing that matters is getting to product market fit. A startup is basically in a race to get to product market fit before the money runs out. That's what a startup is. It's in a race to get to product market fit before the money runs out. And so, think about the ways in which you can do small little experiments that will help you learn what the market wants, help you adjust your product to make it better align with what the market wants. MVP, lean startup and MVP is kind of the heart of the Silicon Valley startup methodology. But here's the thing. I think you're better off don't think of an MVP as being a thing. Think of it as being a process. You're always thinking of what's the smallest little thing I could build that would help me to test what the market wants, help me to test how the market reacts to my product. Assumptions, confirmation bias, and premature scaling. That's what kills most startups. So we start with a set of assumptions because of the way the human mind works. Confirmation bias means that we see all the things that validate our assumptions and we ignore all the things that run contrary to our assumptions. And then we think to ourselves, this thing is going great. And so we scale it up, and premature scaling is what kills most startups. And so think about the small experiments you can do to get yourself to product market fit, an alignment between what the market wants and what your product does, and then begin your scaling process.